Hello everyone, welcome back to Hayley's Space. My name is Hayley, I'm a nurse and knitter from Melbourne, Australia, and welcome to my knitting podcast. If you are brand new here, hello, welcome. I follow a typical podcast format where I talk about finished objects, works in progress, acquisitions and plans, and some other life and nitty chat here and there. So if that's what you're into, keep watching, subscribe if you would like to. Thank you to all of you who have subscribed lately. We're actually at 600 subscribers now, which is crazy to think that there's 600 of you who want to keep watching the videos I'm making. I think that's really cool, and I'm really grateful to have each and every one of you. And thank you as well for all the love that you guys have been giving me on my vlogs that I've been making. I made a week of knitting vlog a couple weeks back, and you guys seem to really like that. So I'm going to continue vlogging. I really enjoy doing it and showing you guys how I fit knitting into my life, and I hope you guys continue to enjoy them. I'm going to start off with a little bit of a life update, and I am going to knit on a whip whilst I talk about this, but I will discuss the whip a little bit later. Let me just grab it. So a fair amount of stuff has happened since I last updated you guys and last filmed. So the last thing I did was a week of knitting vlog, I think. I did quite a lot in that vlog, but I have been studying a lot and working a lot since then. I did quite a few night shifts after I last spoke to you, and uni was a little bit hectic at that time. Semester 1 is now over and semester 2 is starting next week, I think. I did go to a couple of yarn shops and markets over the last couple of weeks. In particular, I went to the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild market that was held in Coburg a couple weeks ago, and there was so much beautiful yarn and so many amazing yarn makers and also yarn dyers, and it was just really inspiring to just see all the different types of yarn. I've never really bought any hand dyed yarn or any kind of special yarn, I guess you could say. A lot of the yarn that I've bought has been from Spotlight or kind of warehouse bulk buy sort of places. And so I did get myself some yarn, which I will show you a bit later on. And it feels awesome to have, you know, some special yarn in my stash. That's really new for me and really exciting. So that happened. Something really exciting that happened is I went to Canberra to go visit my boyfriend. This was for the King's birthday long weekend. Whilst I was there, I caught up with Morgan from Morgan Unraveled. We had been speaking sort of back and forth in the comments of each other's videos, and I told her to DM me on Instagram because I knew I was going to Canberra and I knew that's where she was. So she DM'd me on Instagram and we arranged to meet up on the day that I flew into Canberra, and we went for a little knitting and coffee date, which was so cute. It was so lovely getting to know her and talking about all the things we've been knitting on and reading, and just talk also about YouTube and Instagram and a bit of life as well. It was really nice to meet up with somebody who shares the same hobbies as me. I don't have really any knitting friends. We'll get there in a second. I will talk about that in a little bit. But I don't really have any knitting friends or people who do YouTube that I know in real life. So it was really nice to talk to somebody openly about, you know, these hobbies and their experience with it and hear a different perspective. Her Instagram and her YouTube inspire me a lot. And so meeting with her in person and hearing her passion for those hobbies in person was so inspiring. She's such a lovely, kind, down-to-earth person. So I really enjoyed catching up with her. I hope we can catch up again in the future. My partner might not be in Canberra for much longer, so my excuse for going over there is now her. She also convinced me to join my first knit along, which I will talk about in a little bit because it is a current whip of mine. But after meeting with Morgan, my boyfriend's mum and I went to I think it's called the Wool Shed in Manuka, which is a yarn shop that's not too far out of Canberra City. And we got to have a look at all the beautiful yarns that they carry there. They carry a lot of hand-dyed and Australian-made yarns, as well as some from like Peru and Italy. It was a really beautiful shop. I posted some pictures on my Instagram. And my boyfriend's mum has just started learning to crochet, and she's crocheting a lot of baby hats at the moment for my boyfriend's sister to take to her placement days. She's currently studying to be a midwife, so she's taking the baby hats that my boyfriend's mum crochets to her placement with her to gift to the mothers that she is assisting in their births. Now, talking about friends who knit, I recently convinced 2 of my friends to learn how to knit, and they're doing such a good job. The first friend I convinced to knit is Meg. Hi Meg, if you're watching this video. Hi Meg's mum, if you're watching this video. Shout out to Meg's mum. She's such a sweetheart. But Meg already knew how to crochet, but I encouraged her to learn to knit, and she is currently knitting up the step-by-step sweater by Handmade by Florence in a acrylic yarn from Spotlight. It's cream colored with some tweedie bits in it, and it looks really cute, and I'm really excited to see the finished product. My other friend Liv, I convinced to knit, and she's gone just full ball. She decided to knit up a pattern by Ozetta. I can't remember, I've written here the 1031 sweater by Ozetta, but I'm not 100% sure that that's the pattern that she's knitting. I'd have to ask her, but it's looking really, really good. She's knitting up. Oh, I thought that was the fire alarm. It's somebody's brakes. She's knitting it up in a wool acrylic blend yarn from Spotlight as well. I think it's by Lion brand. If I know the yarn and I can find it, I'll put it here. Otherwise, it'll be in the description as well. But I'm really impressed with how they've been going, and I've been loving helping some beginner knitters. Liv called me sensei the other day, and I really felt that vibe. But it's really nice to have some people to talk about knitting with in real life, and we've had a couple of knit nights. Liv and I had a Lord of the Rings marathon the other day, and we knit through the entire thing. It was like, I don't know, 12 or something hours of just straight knitting. So my arms were a little bit sore, but it's so nice to have people close by in real life who are good friends and also are now knitters. Last week I went to Bali. My best friend and I decided to gift each other a trip to Bali for Christmas. So we bought an all-inclusive package through Luxury Escapes at a Yodia resort in Nusa Dua for Christmas, and we just went 50-50, and that was our present to each other. And it was so relaxing. On the Sunday I flew to Perth to see my family just for one night, and then I flew from Perth to Bali on the Monday morning, and we met up at the airport. We laid by the pool and we explored some parts of Bali. We went to Legian, Kuta Beach, Seminyak, Denpasar, and yeah, of course, explored a bit of Nusa Dua. I loved Nusa Dua. I've been to Bali before when I was a little kid, but as a kid, you kind of just go where your parents tell you to go. And so it was interesting exploring as an adult, kind of, I guess, on our own. I took some knitting with me and got a little bit of progress done on that, but not a whole lot. It was quite hot. It was about 29 degrees to 30 degrees every day. So I didn't get a whole lot of knitting done, but I did get some reading done, which was quite nice. So yeah, that's kind of what's been going on the last couple of months. I'm happy to be back filming another podcast, and I think that I should shut up about my life and start talking about knitting. Let me finish this row, hold on. Okay, finished objects. I have one, and it's what I'm wearing. If you watched my most recent vlog, you will have seen that I was working on this project, and I did end up finishing it before I went to Canberra. This is the step-by-step sweater by Handmade by Florence. This is the 3rd time that I've knit this pattern, and I knitted up using Plotulopi by Istex, and I used a 5.5mm needle. So this is a top-down raglan pattern, and I did the double folded collar and included the short rows. The pattern is free and is also accompanied by a free YouTube video that Florence has on her channel. I've spoken about this pattern a lot. I really recommend it for beginners. That's why I recommended it to my friends when they first started knitting, because it's super easy. She holds your hand through the whole thing, and it's super quick to knit up. I knit pretty monogamously on this sweater for a couple of weeks. I think it's about 2 or 3 weeks that I knit on this. And yeah, I had it done by the time I went to Canberra, and so I wore it when I met up with Morgan, which was really awesome to be able to wear my own knitwear to meet up with a knitting friend for a knitting date. I love the loose and airy gauge that I achieved with this yarn and the 5.5mm needle. The fit is just perfect. I was a bit worried as I was knitting it up whether it was going to be too, I guess, small. Not too small, but smaller than I wanted it to be. but after blocking it grew a lot, and the positive ease is exactly what I wanted it to be. I'll put some pictures, videos, b-roll, all the sorts of stuff up here. It's also really, really cozy whilst also being breathable. I knit up a sweater using plotulopi held double, and I just find that sweater to be a little bit too thick and I can't layer it. It's really difficult to wear things under it, and also really difficult to wear a coat over the top of it. Whereas this sweater fits perfectly under a coat whilst also keeping me warm. And I usually just wear like a long sleeve top underneath it, and it's perfectly fine. It's not itchy on the collar at all, and I'm just obsessed with it. I've been wearing it to death. Now, I don't normally go down a needle size for ribbing, but I decided to this time because on my porcelain sweater, I didn't go down a needle size for the bottom ribbing, and it ended up making like a cone shape. And so I realized the plotulopi needs that structure. It needs something to cinch it in a little bit. So I went down a needle size for the bottom ribbing, and it came out perfectly. It still has that straight shape. It doesn't look like a little balloon. And I just used a regular knit bind off for the cuffs because I find the fact that the plotulopi is unspun makes it it's really delicate, and so it doesn't work for a tubular or Italian bind off because it just breaks. So I just use a regular knit bind off, and you know, it's not super stretchy, but it keeps its structure and keeps its shape, which I really like. I love plotulopi. I want to knit more sweaters in this yarn. I just am obsessed with it. It's warm, it's cozy, it's soft. It's everything I want out of a hand knit sweater. So I want to knit more with it. I do have some left over. I have this much. This is about 50 grams. This is the heathered marsh colorway, by the way. And so I have about 50 grams left of this. So if you know what I can do with 50 grams of plotulopi, let me know. If I hold it single, it can go quite a way, 50 grams, but I'm not sure what I would want with this yarn in a small project. I was thinking maybe penny gloves, but I was like, they'll be a bit loose and floppy, I think. So I'm not sure. I have to think about it. I'm not in a rush to get rid of this out of my stash. I don't mind having it. And there's a bunch of other projects I'm working on at the moment, so I'm not fussed about getting this out of my stash. But please leave any suggestions you have below of what you think I could do with that yarn. And yeah, I'm obsessed with this sweater. I'm so happy with it, and I'm really happy that I was able to finish it in time for my trip to Canberra. So that's my only finished object. Let's talk about whips because I have a lot of them. The first one I have was basically a thread, a string, if you will, in my last podcast. And I have made some pretty decent progress on it since I last showed you. I'll just pull out some yarn so it doesn't snap. This is my Sophie shawl by Petite Knit. I'm knitting this up also in Plotulopi by Istex. This is the heathered oatmeal colorway, and it's just a garter stitch shawl with I-cord edging. And basically you cast on at the little tip here, and I had about this much, I think, when I showed you in the last podcast. And then you just knit in garter stitch and increase at certain intervals. And I'm going to knit until I have half of this yarn left, which should be at about 80 grams, because this is all I have left in my stash. So I want to use up all of it if I can. So I decided I'm just going to keep going until I get halfway through my yarn, and then I will decrease to come down the other side to make a scarf. I'm using a 5mm needle, which is producing a really light and airy gauge whilst also being super, super warm. This is why I like Plotulopi a lot, because it can be so airy and loose, but still be so, so warm and cozy. I want to keep going on the increases, but I don't want it to get too wide. I don't want it to actually be a shawl. So I'm contemplating stopping with the increases soon and just knitting straight for a little while until I get halfway. But I'm not 100% sure what I want to do. I want to be able to wrap it around my neck a few times. And so I think if it's really too wide, it's going to be a bit annoying to wrap around my neck. I'm not really sure. I might just keep going with the increases for a little while. Maybe until it's about here, which maybe may take me to halfway. I don't really know. I think I'm just going to keep going and I'll make up my mind as I go along, as I usually do. But yeah, I'm really excited to have it off my needles, hopefully done by the end of winter so I can actually wear it a little bit, but I'm already obsessed with it. The next two whips I have to show you haven't really progressed that far since you last saw them. The first one is my Rosy Cheeks baby sweater. This is a pattern by Drops Design. It's a top-down baby sweater pattern. Top-down raglan, I should say, baby sweater pattern. And I'm knitting up the newborn size in this white creamy yarn here. Oh, that's not a sleeve. Hold on. There we go. I was wondering why the sleeves look so big. There we go. As you can see, it's tiny and I'm loving it. This is Cleckheaton Baby Yarn 4-ply. It's 100% cotton and I got this yarn from an op shop. I'm knitting this pattern up, as I said, in the newborn size on a 3.25mm needle, and I got gauged for the pattern. And yeah, I've got a few of the raglan increases left to go, but I'm not really in a rush to finish this sweater. This is going to be for my future children. I'm not expecting, but I do have a little baby knit stash that I like adding to every now and then, and this sweater will be going in there. But yeah, no rush to get this finished. It's just kind of sitting on the needles for when I want to work on it. Nothing really else to say. Another one that's kind of sitting dormant at the moment, but I hope to finish by the time I podcast next, is a baby bear bonnet by Knitting for Olive. This I'm also knitting up in the Cleckheaton baby yarn 100% nylon, and I'm knitting up the second size and I'm loving it. I've knit up this pattern before, but it came out a lot larger than this because I used an acrylic yarn and I didn't get gauge and whatever else, but I'm excited to have a little tiny baby one. Again, this is going to be for a future child in my life eventually. I'm at the point now where I need to pick up for the I-cord edging and the I-cord ties, and I also just need to finish up the ears. So really not much left to do on this, but I've got a couple other bigger whips that I'm prioritizing. So this and the Rosy Cheek sweater are just on hold at the moment. I'm not really in a rush to finish those. All right, the next whip is the one that I was just knitting on at the start of this video, and it is another scarf, but it is a self-drafted scrappy scarf. It is rolling a lot, but it is stockinette. As you can see, it's quite wide. And I'm doing I-cord edging on the sides, inspired by the Sophie shawl. And what inspired this was me looking through my stash and realizing I had a lot of green and a lot of cream and beige colored yarns that I wanted to use in a project all together. And I decided I would just do a scrappy scarf. It's giving Molly Weasley knits Draco Malfoy a sweater in an alternate universe where Draco is friends with the Golden Trio. And I'm loving it. I hope to channel Molly Weasley throughout my entire life. I want to be her eventually. I want to have her house and her entire aesthetic. And so this is me trying to get there. I'm liking it. I'm liking just having stockinette. It needs a really good steam block because, as you can see, it just looks like a tube. I was knitting on this at work a couple days ago and someone came up to me and they're like, "What are you knitting?" I was like, "Oh, it's just going to be a scarf." And they're like, "Oh, like a skinny scarf." And then I pulled it apart and I was like, "No, a normal size scarf, a real scarf." I'm like, "Oh, it looks so skinny." I was like, "I know, it does. It looks kind of stupid when it's all wrapped up, but when you pull it out, it looks really nice." Anyway, so I'm using a combination of stash yarns. Some of these are acrylic, some of these are wool. I know the one that I just finished knitting up with was leftover 4 Seasons half and half, which is 50% wool, 50% acrylic. And yeah, it just needs a good steam block, and then hopefully it'll be done by the end of winter so I can wear it. I'll show you some of the other yarns that I want to use. So right now I'm doing this light green color, and the stripes really don't have any rhyme or reason. I'm kind of just knitting until I get bored of knitting with that color and then changing it. I held the light green with the white yarn that I just used and made this kind of mild situation. This is wool. So yeah, there's just random bits. So I've got this olive color wool left to use. I have the tiniest amount of this lighter olive color. Hold on, sorry, I'm like waving it around. I've got this kind of darker olive and then this lighter olive to use. Obviously the light green. There's this thinner white yarn, which is a lot thinner than the other yarns that I'm using. So I'm not too sure if I'll actually end up using that. And then there's this one as well, which is also a wool. Which is also wool. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to knit a fair amount on this green. And then I'm going to go straight from this green into this green. Use up the rest of that. And then what I might do is knit on some of this white. Finish up the light green. Finishing up this green. And then some more of the white. I think I'm just kind of seeing what I feel. I'm kind of just knitting what I feel like knitting, if that makes sense. And I kind of like that. That gives it that really good scrappy, thrown together sort of vibe. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. It's been really great having that project at work to knit on in my breaks. Also just in general when I'm not doing anything and I need to fill some time. I took it with me on my morning tea break the other day for a little knit walk, and that was really nice. And yeah, it's just an easy stockinette project, which I need at the moment because I have a lot of texture, which I think we're going to talk about now. This next project is the project that Morgan convinced me to knit up as part of a knit along. The knit along is the book club cardigan knit along. We're all knitting the book club cardigan by Sari Nordland. It's hosted by, hold on, let me tell you. Hosted by, it's Sarah from Two Pearls in a Pod, Sandra from Enzo Knit on Instagram, and I think it's Matilda from Nestled in Knits. I'll put all of their information and details down below, as well as the knit along details down below as well. It's an all over cabled pattern, and it is a drop shoulder cardigan. So this is mine. I'm currently working on the right front. I'll show you the back panel. This is the back panel. I finished this up the other day. As you can see, beautiful, rich cables. Just stunning. I'm in love with the cable pattern. Now you might be able to tell this yarn is making stripes. So the yarn I'm using is from Lincraft. I bought it when I was in Canberra, straight after I met with Morgan. And it is their Shadow Marble yarn. So this is 69% polyester, 22% acrylic, and 9% wool. And I got gauge with this yarn with a 4mm? No, I lied. A 5mm needle. And yeah, I started knitting this up. I was really liking it. And then I realized on the back panel that instead of kind of being a gradual fade situation or mild or I don't know what really I was expecting, it started making stripes. And I decided to just leave it and just go with it. I know there are ways to accommodate for that, but I just was kind of like, whatever. I'll just keep going. And so I have, and I know obviously because the rows are shorter on the front, the stripes are going to be thicker, and I know all of these things, I'm fully aware, but I'm just kind of going for it, and I'm really enjoying just knitting the pattern and just seeing how it all comes together. I decided that if I hate it at the end and I hate the stripes all over, I am just going to dye it. I'll just over dye it like a dark black, dark grey, navy sort of situation and see if that fixes it. I'm not entirely fussed, to be honest. So I am knitting up size 3. And there's a group chat for the knit along that has over 100 people in it, which is a lot for me. I find group chats in general quite overwhelming. So a group chat with 100 and something people in it is a bit scary for me, but I'm in it. I've sent a message once with my, like the information of my project. And I've also posted a couple of updates about it on Instagram. So if you want to see that, feel free to go and follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to be a lot more active on my Instagram, so I will post heaps of updates on this project over there. It's also not too late to join the knit along if you want to, so it's running until August 10th. So if you want to knit up the book club cardigan and talk about knitting and the books that you're reading with like-minded people, feel free to join, and yeah, it's a good time. As I said, I'm liking the pattern, but I have made some mistakes. So as I was writing my notes for this, I realized, and I wrote here in all caps, oh my God, because I discovered that I made a huge mistake. I picked up the stitches for size 2 instead of size 3. And I realized that I did that because when I finished up the back panel and then went through the PDF and highlighted the stitch counts for the next section, which is the right front, I highlighted all of them for size 2 instead of highlighting size 3. And so I have fewer stitches here than what I was supposed to have, which is fine. I've decided, after stressing out a little bit and being like, oh my God, I'll just rip it back, and all this work that I did yesterday, like I did a lot yesterday, I decided I was just gonna leave it. And what I'm gonna do is I'm going to knit an extra increase, and I'm gonna knit to the length that is required for size 3 for the right front. And then I'm gonna repeat what I did on the left front, just intentionally this time, and then just continue with size 3 once I join the front and the back. I think that's going to be fine. So that was my first mistake. Well, it wasn't my first mistake, it's my biggest mistake. The other mistake that I made, let's see if you can spot it. I've been hiding it so far. I don't know if you'll be able to see it from here. You probably can. I can see it from here. It happened yesterday, and I don't know why I did it, because I've really just memorized this pattern now. I did my cables the wrong way. I did the cables the wrong way here, and so they went out instead of coming in. And then obviously I knew as soon as I noticed it. I only noticed when I had done a couple of rows afterwards and I got to the next cable. And I obviously realized that it was going to make this circle shape because the cables all point inwards. So I was like, shit. And I thought, you know what? I don't really care. I don't care that much to go back, rip it back, and do that again. I'm not fast. And when I was looking at the pattern, I realized that the back, because it's drop shoulder, this is the back, and that seam will be on my back, which means that the mistake is going to be on my shoulder, effectively. I was kind of folding it, and you can't really see it. So I don't mind that much, and so I didn't rip it back. I didn't fix it. I just kept going, and I'm not really that bothered. I think it is noticeable, but I'll survive. I think if this was a gift knit, it would definitely be a different story. I would rip back this entire panel and I would start again with the right stitch count and without messing up the cables, and I would be meticulous in fixing my mistakes. But because it's just a knit for me, and I'm intending to use this cardigan as like an at-home, comfy, cozy, I'm reading a book under the blanket kind of cardigan, I'm not fast. I don't usually wear cardigans out and about, and people aren't going to notice that unless they are knitters themselves and they know what they're looking for. So, not bothered. Overall, I'm loving the pattern. I'm loving how it looks. I love these cables. I want to knit another one already. And I'm already thinking about what kinds of yarns I want to use for my second one. I want to knit one that's a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit in a bit more of a color that I typically wear so that I can wear it out and about. But it is really cool doing it as part of a knit along and knowing that there is hundreds of people around the world right now knitting the exact same pattern as me. I just think that's so cool, and it's just insane to think about. So that's my book club cardigan. I'm going to be serious for a second. If you are my boyfriend, you cannot watch this next part. And I'm being so serious right now and being so for real. I'm not even joking. If your name is Callum, skip to this timestamp. Please. I beg you. Thank you. Okay. I think he's gone. Or at least he better be. If he's still here, why are you still here? Okay. So, if you might be able to tell, the next whip is a gift knit for my boyfriend. I wanted to knit my boyfriend a sweater for his birthday. His birthday is in July. And so I scoured Ravelry and had a look for something I could knit him. Now, I know he wants a cable knit sweater. He was looking at a few in the shops when I was in Canberra last, but I just don't have the time right now to knit him a cable sweater literally in 3 weeks' time. So I ended up casting on just a basic raglan, top-down raglan textured jumper. This is the Justin's Flannel pattern by Alicia Plummer. And I'm knitting this up using Cleckheaton Country Naturals, which is an 8-ply yarn, using a... size needle am I using? I think I'm using a 5.5mm needle. This yarn is 100% wool. I don't know what color it is. Did I bring the ball band? No, I don't know what color it is, but it's this kind of tweedy, navy tweedy yarn. So as I said, yeah, it's a top-down raglan, and it's got a 4-row repeat to create this kind of texture, which I'm obsessed with. I measured one of his store-bought sweaters and picked the size based off of that. So I'm knitting up the second size. I don't want it to have too much positive ease on him. I think this is probably better as like a single layer sweater for spring or autumn, or a really good layering piece under a coat. That's kind of what I'm intending with this sweater, and I just really hope that he likes it. He typically wears navy, grey, those kinds of colours, and so I wanted to go with something that was in his comfort zone, so I knew that he would probably want to wear it. I have split for the sleeves and I've worked on the body, but I've just run out of yarn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go buy some more yarn as soon as possible, and I'm going to start working on the collar and then also the sleeves. I find if I work the collar and sleeves of a sweater first before doing the body, for a raglan sweater for example, I get it done a lot faster, and I find that it's easier to knit the body once the sleeves and the collar are done, because the endless mindless knitting can feel like it lasts forever. So having those things already done, you know that that's the last thing that you have to do, is just finish the body, so the end is in sight. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do with this sweater, so that I can hopefully get it done by July 18th, which is his birthday, which is literally not that far away. I think it's about two and a half, maybe 3 weeks away. 3 weeks, something like that. So yeah, I really want to get this one done. I do know about the curse, but we're not going to talk about it, okay? It's like in a musical or a play. When someone says the word Macbeth in a musical or a play, shit hits the fan. You don't talk about Macbeth. It's like Fight Club. So that's not what we're doing here. We're not talking about it, okay? We're just gonna knit him a gift, and we're gonna be the exception to the rule, okay? I am enjoying the pattern though. I'm loving knitting it up. As you can probably tell, I love a raglan, so I am really enjoying the process. I did notice on the pattern pictures that the body is a little bit short, so I think I'm going to knit the body not to the pattern, but to the length of one of his store-bought sweaters that he likes. And hopefully that will be long enough. I can always add extra. I wouldn't want to have to take away, so I'll try not make it too long, but I don't want it to be like look weirdly cropped on him. That's not his style, so. We pause your scheduled programming to bring you a knitter's worst nightmare. Enjoy. Sorry if you guys can hear the rain or if the audio is a bit weird, but I haven't uploaded this podcast yet that this video is going in, so I'm including it now because I just had a little cry in Spotlight. I went to go buy more yarn for this project and I made a rookie mistake. When I first bought the yarn for this project, I didn't buy enough because there wasn't a lot of skeins in store, and I thought, oh, that's fine, it's Spotlight, I'll come back in a couple weeks time and I'll just get some more once they've restocked. It's been a couple of weeks. I went back, couldn't find the yarn anywhere, looked online at all the other Spotlight stores in Victoria, couldn't find it online, it's not available to buy online, and I looked at some other yarn stores like Morris and Sons here in Melbourne and like some other like commercial sellers, and none of them have the colorway that I was using, and so that leads me to believe that it has been discontinued. So all of that progress that I made now has to be ripped back. I was going to pick up for the collar and the sleeve stitches today and get that done, and I was really excited. All of that excitement has fizzled out because I've now had to buy an entire sweater quantity of a different yarn, and I thought I'd quickly show you. This is Annette Ericsson's Scandi Wool in the colorway dark grey. It's a 50% wool, 50% acrylic. I didn't want to have acrylic in this sweater
because I wanted to be able to wet block it, and I don't really love acrylic content in the way that it feels, but this one's quite soft and I figured it would be all right. It was relatively cheap. It only cost me maybe $70, I think, for 13 50-gram balls. It is, I think it's an aran weight. It's saying 17 stitches for 22 rows, 100 meters per 50-gram ball. So I'm going to go home, do a gauge swatch and make sure that I like it. Otherwise I'll just return the 13 balls that I've bought. But I'm feeling a little bit disheartened and a little bit upset because now I have to work monogamously on this project for the next 3 weeks so that I can send it to my boyfriend in time for him to receive the sweater. Spotlight's yarn choices, I've realized, are becoming increasingly limited as I guess grow as a knitter, and so I really felt like I didn't have much to choose from, but I did want to buy the yarn in person in the store today after having a little mental breakdown so that I could get started tonight and hopefully get through a fair chunk of it this evening. I'm really upset. I really am. It feels like a rookie mistake and it feels like something that could have been avoided, but at the same time it couldn't have been. I didn't know it was getting discontinued. I don't know why I can't find it anywhere online, and I'm sure there's ways for me to get access to this yarn. I'm sure some people have it in their stash somewhere. I could message people on Ravelry, you know, I could do all of that, but I just don't have the time and I just don't have the energy or the effort to do that. So I've just bought a new sweaters quantity. And that's what we're going to do when I get home this afternoon. Say goodbye. This is heartbreaking. It really would have been really cute.
Speaking of gift knits, the next thing I have to show you is a gift knit for my dad, but it is in the very initial stages. So I spoke about last time how my dad wants an all over cable fisherman's style sweater for Christmas. I knit my mum a cabled sweater, my dad really wants one. So I agreed, and I had the hardest time looking for patterns, so I gave him a few to choose from, and he picked the Dreams of Aran sweater pattern by Drops Design. And I spoke about in my last podcast how I don't really love Drops Design patterns really anymore after knitting a lot of paid patterns. Drops Design patterns are missing a lot of information, obviously because they're free, and often it's really hard to get the sizing and understand the charts and things like that. So I was going to look for a different pattern, but I ended up just going with the Dreams of Aran pattern and deciding to change a few things. Firstly, the yarn. I'm using Cleckheaton Country again. This is not the naturals though, this is just Cleckheaton Country 8 ply in this creamy sort of colour. I'll see if I have a ball for you. Yeah, there we go, Cleckheaton Country. This is colour 19 and it's kind of this, I don't know, mild variegated, I don't really know the term, creamy beige sort of colour that he picked out and he really liked. What I've decided to do with the pattern is knit the sleeves first. So the sleeves you knit and they join at the back for like a shoulder back panel, kind of like a saddle shoulder but not really. And so I've decided to knit the sleeves first, like separately, and then join them together at the back, and then pick up the stitches at the front to make the front panel and pick up the stitches at the back to knit the back panel, and then join in the round and knit the body in the round, if that makes sense. It's all over cable work, so we're going to see how long it takes me. Hopefully I can have it done by Christmas. But what I've done so far is the cuff. Wow, that was so anticlimactic. I've done the cuff. I was working on this on my knitting date with Morgan in Canberra, and I finished it. I finished the cuff, and then I cast on the book club cardigan, and I decided that I was going to wait until either my boyfriend's sweater was off the needles or the book club cardigan was off my needles before starting this one. I don't want to have 3 big textured sweater whips on the go. I think that's just too overwhelming for me. So as soon as one of them's off the needles, this one will be back on the go. So it's on hold for a little while, which is fine. I'm not fussed. I'm not stressed about getting this done. It'll be done when it's done. My mum's sweater took me about 2.5 years to get finished. It was my first time doing cables, and I kept promising it for birthdays and Christmases until it was finally done. So I think Dad will understand that this will get finished when I decide that it is finished. Okay, my last whip you will have seen in my vlog, and it is this crochet bobble bag. I finished the actual bag itself, the outside layer of the bag, in the vlog, but I still haven't added the lining or the zipper. I'll attach the tutorial I used down below. It's a free video on YouTube, but there's also a paid pattern that accompanies the video. But basically, if you cast on an even number of stitches to the width that you want, this popcorn stitch will work. So really, I don't think you need to buy the pattern. You can just follow the video if you already know how to crochet. I'm really happy with this. I think it's really cute. I want to use it as a pencil case for uni. As I said, it just needs a lining and a zipper. So I'll show you that hopefully finished in the next podcast. This is just an acrylic yarn that I had in my stash. This is the last of it. I had to frog a pair of mittens to get the last little bits to finish this off. But yeah, that's that. Those were all of my whips. I'm going to talk about a few acquisitions now and then talk about some plans in a minute as well. So when I went to the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild market, I knew that I was looking for some fingering weight sock yarn. I've never owned any fingering weight sock yarn, and I really wanted to buy my first special skein. So that's what I was looking for when I was there, and I did find one. We kind of walked around all of the stalls and had a look, and then we circled back again to our favorite spots. And one of my favorite stalls was the Passioned Flower, where I got this beautiful, beautiful blue skein of fingering weight sock yarn. So this is their lattice sock fingering 4-ply yarn. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and this is the color Ocean. And it's this beautiful, it's hand dyed, beautiful, I guess variegated yarn, and it's just stunning. For my first ever skein of hand dyed fingering weight sock yarn, I just couldn't have picked anything better. I fiddled with it a lot. I touch things and knitting is a very tactile hobby, so I kind of messed up the skein a little bit, but it's okay, it's still pretty. And I'm hoping to knit up some socks with this soon. I bought quite a bit of sock yarn recently, so I'll talk about the patterns that I'm thinking of knitting up in a minute once I've shown you all of the yarn. But I think I want to knit up a textured or cabled sock with this yarn. I think that would just be so beautiful. So there's that one. The next two yarns I got were from the Wool Shed in Manuka in Canberra. And this is the Tweedie Socks Easy Wash Alpaca Sock Yarn. This is 65% alpaca, 25% nylon, and 10% Donegal. It says made in Peru, and it just says alpaca yarns. So I'm not 100% sure what the brand is. I'll try and find it on Ravelry maybe, or online, and I'll link it below. But it's just this tweedy chocolatey brown color that I was just obsessed with. It was just calling to me, and I just thought I have to have a pair of socks in that yarn. I also want to make a textured or cable knit sock with this yarn, and this is a 100-gram ball or cake, so I only bought one of these, so hopefully it's enough. Otherwise I can just hopefully buy it online. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I'm in love with that yarn. It is so soft. I personally love alpaca. I've seen around a lot people saying that they don't find alpaca actually to be soft, but for me, I love alpaca. And one day I'm hoping to buy my own alpacas and make my own yarn, but that's a very far in the future distant dream. But yeah, I love alpacas, so I'm happy with this yarn. Then the other sock yarn I got was this Rosarios for Meia. You really can't see it. I'll put in some B-roll of all these yarns. But yeah, this is Rosarios for Meia. And this is, it just says Meia print, color 101. And this is a sport weight sock yarn in this beautiful, I think it's hand dyed. I'm actually not 100% sure. It just says, oh yeah, variegated colors are hand dyed. So yeah, hand dyed yarn. And oh, this was just screaming at me. I was looking for a self-striping sock yarn. I really want to try some self-striping socks because I think that would be so fun. And there are a couple there that I saw, but I wasn't obsessed with. So I kept looking for something that really was screaming to me. And this was calling out to me. So I got two 50-gram cakes of this yarn. And then I have knit a little tiny mini swatch, I guess, because I bought my first ever pair of shorties. These are the Chiaogu shorties in, what size are these? 2.5 millimeter. And basically I just wanted to see what it would be like to knit with shorty needles because I've never knit with them before. And I'm going to be honest, I found it really, really hard. I am someone who uses my entire hand to knit. I typically grip the needles with my whole hand like that. So knitting with these shorties has been really, really difficult. I have to kind of retrain my neurons to be able to knit with these needles. I just find it really tricky. But it's an exciting new challenge. It's something that I want to try and see if I like it. I typically knit my socks on magic loop, so this is very, very different. But yeah, as I said, I'm excited for the challenge and happy that I got a pair. Now, I feel like everyone is casting on socks lately. Morgan just cast on some socks and I just have seen socks everywhere. So I want to cast on a pair of socks in this coming month. Patterns that I'm thinking of casting on with these yarns are the Petal Drop Socks by Handmade by Florence. I've also been looking at her Mountain Walk socks and her Mountain Walk chunky socks. I really like the look of those. They're in my Ravelry favorites. One that I really like though are the Seasons socks. These are by Summerly Knits. And they're just kind of like I guess it kind of looks like a waffle stitch situation. I don't really know how to describe it, but I really, really like those. And I think they would look really good in the chocolate brown yarn that I have. I think that could be really cool. So those are the socks I'm thinking of knitting. If you have any recommendations for the yarns that I've mentioned, the sock yarns that I've mentioned, please let me know down below. I would love to hear your suggestions. I'm not a big sock knitter. I've only really knit Sunday socks and then also the DK vanilla socks by Crazy Sock Lady. Those are the only sock patterns I've ever knit. So leave your recommendations in the comments, please. My last few acquisitions are so tiny, you probably won't be able to see them, but they are some stitch markers. When I was at the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild market, I came across Mavis Handmade and absolutely fell in love with her stuff. I just couldn't take my eyes away from their stall and I decided I had to buy everything, which was a lot. So I had to rein myself in. I had my hands full of stitch markers like this and I had to get my friend to help me like pick and choose exactly which ones I want. So I got some progress keepers. I got this one, which is a whale. You know what? I'm going to put B-roll here. I got a whale, a croissant, a mushroom, and a duck. And I think I got another progress keeper. Yes, I did. Where is it? A dinosaur. That's what else I got. But it's on my book club cardigan. So those were my progress keepers. And then I got a set of stitch markers, which are these brown, tiny weeny brown pine cones, which I love. She also had a couple of like explicit naughty stitch markers and progress keepers. And I came really close to buying some, but I decided to really rein it in because I couldn't be spending all of my money on that day. But I will leave their Instagram down below and all the information of all the yarn dyers and sellers that I mentioned in this video, as well as Mavis's information, because I love everything, absolutely everything that she makes. So those are all my acquisitions. As for plans, I just want to finish up all these big whips. So many cables, so much texture. I just want to get those off my needles and really focus on them. I'm going to do a little bit of a knit and chat now. If you're not interested in what I've been reading, what I've been watching, things like that, if you're ready to click off this video, that's fine. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you back again soon. Remember to subscribe if you enjoyed. But if you want to hear what I've been watching and listening to whilst I've been knitting, stick around. I'm going to knit on this scrappy scarf now like I was before. Hold on, let me fix my situation. I'm going to first talk about some podcasts I've been watching. Of course, I have been watching Morgan from Morgan Unraveled. I am obsessed with her videos. She's just got a proper camera. So her next video, I think, is just going to be extra cozy, extra aesthetic, and extra vibey. So check her out if you're into cozy vibes. As always, I've been watching Alexandra from FibreBound. She just brought out her new podcast episode and I loved it. She just finished this Advent cardigan that I really, really liked and reminded me that I want to try a yarn Advent this year. I don't know if it's too late for me to purchase one, so I need to do some research. But thank you for reminding me of that, Alexandra, and thank you for producing beautiful knits. Another person I've been watching is Knit with Juliette. Juliette has made some really aesthetic knits lately, and I really, really enjoy their podcast. I saw that Juliette was calling for testers for their PhD vest. Yes, that's right, the PhD vest, but the tester call actually is ended, and I would have loved to test for that, but that's okay. Maybe another time. I have been looking for some test knits because I would love to give it a go. Maybe after the book club cardigan is done, I'll try and find a test knit to join. I just don't want to join test knits for the sake of it. I think I really want to find something that I'm genuinely interested in before applying. So we'll see. Then I've also been watching, I think it's Mariel from What Mariel Made, and been really, really enjoying their videos as well. Now for TV shows, you all know that I love, love, love Bridgerton, and season 3 part 2 came out since I last spoke to you, and I died and went to heaven. I loved it. Look, there's a couple of things that I'm disappointed about, which I'll talk about in a second, but in general, I loved it. I watched part 2 3 times. Part 1 I also watched 3 times before part 2 came out, and I think I need to go back and watch it from start to finish. I forgot to mention, so I'm ducking in now, I talk about Bridgerton spoilers right now, so if you're not interested or you haven't watched it yet, skip to this timestamp so you don't hear all the spoilers. Now, I was a little bit disappointed about how little of Penelope and Colin and their relationship we got to see. I heard that there were a lot of scenes that they filmed that actually got cut, which was really disappointing. We got a lot of screen time for characters that I wasn't necessarily interested in or didn't think needed the screen time. For example, Benedict. We got a lot of focus on his story that I feel like wasn't particularly relevant to A, the plot, but also B, his storyline in the previous seasons. I feel like he didn't really grow as a character at all, and we didn't see the continuation of his struggle with his, I guess, purpose. I really enjoyed seeing the side of his story where he was exploring his artistic side and, you know, his role as the second son, if that makes sense, and what that means and what he should pursue outside of being the second Bridgerton son. You know, we saw a lot last season of Anthony struggling being, you know, Lord Bridgerton, and what that really meant for him. And then we got to see that compared with Benedict and what he wanted to do with his life. And the season kind of ended with, season 2 ended with Benedict really being like, well, what should I do with my life? You know, my brother paid for me to get into art school. That doesn't mean I'm a good artist. So what should I do now, kind of thing. And we didn't really talk about that in season 3. It was just kind of him banging, which is fine. Like, bang wherever, whenever, whoever, like, that's great. But like, he didn't really do anything. I feel like it didn't serve a purpose. It was just there. Anyway, so that was a gripe that I had. I feel also they cut a lot of Colin's storyline from the show. In the book, Colin struggles a lot with his own purpose and how he wants to be a writer and what that looks like and what that means and how he feels that he can't pursue that. So when he finds out that Penelope is Lady Whistledown, he starts to grapple with his own, not his own identity, but the fact that Penelope has been able to be a successful writer and that's what he wants to do. And it's a big part in the book of him sort of starting to understand why Penelope wants to continue being Lady Whistledown. Because he understands that drive and that need for a sense of purpose and a sense of who you are and being able to be who you are in a society that doesn't necessarily accept you. So I feel like because that was cut, we lost a lot of the meat of the story. We lost a lot of Colin and Penelope's, not conflict, but the resolution for that was very I don't know, vanilla. I wanted to see them have it out a bit more. I wanted to see Colin struggle with that more. Yeah, I think I want to rewatch it, definitely, from start to finish. I found with all of the previous Bridgerton seasons, I like them more once I've had time away from the season, and then I come back and I watch it and I fall in love with it all over again and I love it even more. That definitely happened with season 2. I did not really enjoy season 2 until I came back a couple weeks later and watched it all through again and felt obsessed with it. So we'll see how I feel about this one. I'm excited to see the next season. I'm excited to see whose season it's going to be. I don't know if they've announced it yet. It's going to maybe be Francesca or Benedict. I feel like we need some time away from Francesca for a little bit, because with where she's going and what she's doing and what happens in her book, I feel like it's going to be weird to have her be in another place compared to, like, physically in another place compared to the rest of the Bridgerton family. I don't know, we'll see. But I enjoyed it. Let me know what you thought in the comments. If you have any thoughts or feelings, please feel free to share them with me. I love to talk, so don't know if you can tell. So I'd love to have a chat with you in the comments about it. So with reading, I read a lot in my most recent vlog, and then I kind of put books down again. I got distracted with uni and work and knitting as well, so I didn't really read much this past month. But I will tell you about what I did read. So I read Not in Love this past month, and this is the latest book by Ali Hazelwood, literally came out a couple weeks ago. I love Ali Hazelwood. I love her work. I love every single book that she's put out. I love that she sets them in a scientific research academia setting, because that's part of my personal background as well as hers. So it's really cool to read about that in a book like this. I really enjoyed Bride, and so I was excited to see what she was going to bring out next, and I loved this book. Even though the characters were a little bit more troubled and traumatized compared to her usual lead characters, I felt like they were still relatable, they were still lovable, and I just really enjoyed the plot and the story. I just felt like there were stakes, and there was a reason for them not to be together, but there was also reasons for them to be together, and it was a great romance. If you like romance with obviously smart, give Ali Hazelwood a go, because I just devour her books and her writing. I'm currently reading Guild. This is part of the Plated Prisoners series, and it's by Raven Kennedy. This is a retelling of the story of King Midas, which is like a Greek mythological story, and I've been enjoying it. I'm literally exactly 50% of the way through, and I read a little bit of it whilst I was in Bali, and I'm finding it to be quite slow. I thought that maybe it was YA, but it literally opens, I don't think this is a spoiler, it opens with so I don't think this is YA. As soon as I opened it and then read the first few pages by the pool, I was like, oh, so this is not a YA. So yeah, bit explicit, but I've been enjoying it. As I said, a little bit slow moving. We haven't really gotten far in the story, but it's a series, so I understand why that is, and I think I will maybe want to read the next book, but I'm not obsessed. I'm not rushing to finish this, if that makes sense. I also downloaded quite a few cozy graphic novels onto my Kindle. I downloaded Anne of Green Gables, The Secret Garden as well. They look really, really cute, and I'm excited to read those. I've also downloaded Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, which looks really cute and funny. I also want to start reading Game of Thrones and dip my toe into that series. I've watched the show, but I really, really, really want to read all the books. So I'm thinking maybe in the coming months, I will start reading the first book. It's a hefty one. It's a big, big series. There's a lot of characters. There's a lot that happens. My dad has only read the first one, I think, and he said it was difficult for him to read. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. It might be one of those slow burn reads where I just slowly get through it bit by bit, but who knows? I could love it. We'll see what happens. So I'm back to knitting, by the way. Some upcoming life plans. Next week, I am going to a craft and cinema night, which is organised by Juliette from Sew Hooked Crochet on Instagram. I saw an Instagram reel the other day that she made from her first crafting cinema night, and it looked so fun. Basically, you buy a ticket and you go along with your knitting, your cross stitch, your crochet, whatever crafting thing that you are doing. You bring it along and everyone sits in a cinema with the lights on and watches a movie whilst doing their craft. And I decided, hell yeah, I want to do that. Let's go. So there's one happening next week, and I bought some tickets for me and obviously my friends who have just learnt to knit, and we're going. This time they're showing The Devil Wears Prada and The Princess Diaries, and I'm really excited. If you are in Melbourne and you're going, please let me know. There might be some tickets still available. I'm not 100% sure. I know that she had to upgrade cinemas to account for more people, which is great. That's awesome. So I wonder if maybe there's some more tickets left. But if you are going, let me know so that we can say hi to each other and maybe sit with each other. I'll also be wearing my porcelain sweater, which you can see here. So if you see me and you want to say hi, feel free. I'll leave all the event information in the description box so you can go and check that out. But also go check Juliette out on Instagram. She seems really lovely and I'm excited to go to this event. Now, a big event that I am going to for sure is the Australian Sheep and Wool Show in Bendigo. That's in a couple weeks' time as well. And I'll be going for the entire weekend, Friday to Sunday. There's a lot of yarn type stuff and crafting type stuff that happens there, but also there's also like they sell the sheep, and you know, there's sheep mustering and all of that country bumpkin farming sheep kind of stuff, which I think is just so fun and so cool. So I'll be going to that. If you are going to that show, also let me know, please. I'd love to meet some of you or catch up with any of you. I know Alexandra from FibreBound, I think she's going. She commented on my last video or the video before and mentioned that she might be going. So hopefully we can catch up. But yeah, if you're going, let me know. I'm planning on staying in an Airbnb somewhere near Bendigo with like a wood fireplace. I'm thinking cozy wool sweaters so I can just knit all weekend, visit the show and go and do some other knitting related activities. I will be vlogging that whole weekend for you guys and for myself. So look out for that video. That'll be in a couple of weeks' time. And I'm hoping I can fit in another week of knitting vlog somewhere. Maybe the week that I go to Bendigo. I'm not really 100% sure. We'll see. Even like a day of knitting vlog. I've been really enjoying vlogging. So hopefully I can fit that in somewhere. Otherwise I'll do one next month for sure. But yeah, those are kind of all my plans for the next month. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoy podcasting and I enjoy talking about my knitting and all the crafty things I've been up to. So I really hope you enjoyed watching. Please let me know in the comments down below what you've been working on. I love to hear from you guys and have little chit chats down in the comments. So feel free to leave me a comment. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We're building a really cool community here already, and I'd love to have more of you stick around. So feel free to subscribe if you'd like to. And I hope you're safe and well wherever you are. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye. My friend and I are off to a yarn and crafting market this morning. It's the Hand Knit and Crochet Guild of Victoria market. I'm not sure if they hold multiple markets throughout the year, but I had this one in my calendar and I invited my friend because she's also a knitter and a crocheter. So we're going to go to that this morning. We both have just come off a night shift, so we literally finished work about an hour and a half ago, and we're about to drive out to this market to check out the yarn. I'm hoping to get some nice skeins of yarn. I'm thinking maybe I'd love to get some sock yarn, like a self-striping sock yarn would be really nice. I'm wearing my porcelain sweater, which is by Lynette. I knit this up in plotulopi. And it's a very cold day, so I am packing my penny gloves as well by Petite Knit, just in case my hands get cold. But I think it's inside. We'll see when we get there. But yeah, and I also have a beanie in the car, a hand knit beanie. So I've got all the knits with me. And I'm hoping there'll be a coffee shop there because I am in desperate need of some caffeine. Let's go. It's super wonky right now, but I wanted to show you the yarn that I bought. This is my first ever skein of hand-dyed yarn, and it's this beautiful blue color. That's the brand there, Passion Flower, and I'm obsessed. I knew I wanted to get some sock yarn, and I just think this is the perfect choice. I was weighing up between this and a couple of other colors, but I just felt like this one was just the most perfect blue color. There was a lot of really nice stalls there actually. It was quite busy. We sort of came at the start of the day, so it wasn't too busy, but it started to amp up. Like there started to be a lot of people by the time we were sort of finished looking around. But it was really, really nice, and there was a lot of beautiful yarns, and everyone was so kind and happy to explain things and happy for you to touch everything, which I really appreciated. I sort of felt a bit standoffish at times, not wanting to touch everything and be very hands-on, but a lot of the store owners were like, please, like touch everything, like it's very important that you feel the yarn and all that stuff, which I really appreciated. And there was a lot of people there also showing like spinning, and that's something that I eventually want to get into. And so one lady was kind of explaining to us how to spin. I am really tired though. It is time for me to go to bed.